what is up, nerds, geeks, and collectors alike? Today we are taking a look at the Marvel Legends The Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows 2-pack of Spider-Man and Marvel's Spinneret. And I have to say, this is my first time encountering Hasbro's new packaging where there is no more windows where you can see the figure before you get them. And this is the front of the box with digital renders of Spider-Man and Spinneret, as well as the Marvel Legends logo and the Amazing Spider-Man Renew Your Vows logo. And at the side, here we have the comic book look of Spider-Man and Spinneret from Renew Your Vows. At the bottom, Marvel Legends. At the back, here we have more digital renders of the figures along with their included accessories. At the side, again, more digital renders of the figures here in stoic poses and nothing much. Now let's just turn this around in order to get a look at the 60 amazing years of Spider-Man. And at the bottom, just legal mumbo jumbo as well as the UPC and the artwork of Spider-Man. And this is actually my first time opening this 2-pack. I hope I got a solid copy of these figures because I don't want to go through the process of returning them due to paint or accessory issues. So I really hope that if there are issues, I hope they are very minor and something I can look past. These two figures are actually the ones I'm most excited out of the 60th anniversary of Spider-Man that are being released and as well as announced. And now they come in this weird box packaging in paper bags. So you could say goodbye to the plastic windows as well as the plastic clamshell. And taking them out is quite the hassle, since this is, I don't know, this is more of a hassle in my opinion. And here we have Spider-Man looking great. So far so good. Now let's try to remove Spinneret right here. I am hoping that I also got a good copy of her. And taking a look at Spinneret, and like Spider-Man, she does look great. I, for one, am very excited to take a closer look at these two figures. Now, here we have Spider-Man and Spinneret out of their packaging. And first, let's take a close look at Spider-Man from head to toe. Taking a look here, I think that the decision of using the pizza head Spider-Man here does look better in terms of proportions. And one of my major concerns with this figure's predecessor, which is the retro Spider-Man, is the web lines on the head as well as the body. And again, so far so good. Very minimal. I've spotted some very minimal paint, but I can look past them. And that being is, I don't know if you can see it right there, is I think the web lines were disconnected because of red paint bleeding over there, but you don't really notice it from afar. That is if you only focus on it. So taking a look at the back right here, the spider logo looks phenomenal. The web lines again is looking very crisp, no complaints right here. And the overall figure is pretty good in terms of paint, which is one of my major complaints with the retro Spider-Man. Now let's take a look at Spinneret right here. I think she is using the Shriek body mold, and as you can see here, the web lines are, especially at the lower torso, somewhat disconnected, but good thing it's symmetrical. And the overall body, it's fine, no major issues. Some bleeding here and there, but it's very minor and you only notice it if you really focus on it. I'm really relieved with the copies I received, since these two really don't give me anything to complain about. Moving on to accessories, Spider-Man comes with 3 sets of hands. Sweeping hands, wall crawling hands, as well as fisted hands. And same goes for Spinneret, she does come with 3 sets of hands. Much like her husband, Spinneret includes sweeping hands, wall-crawling hands, as well as fisted hands. In a typical Marvel Legends fashion, all you have to do for Spider-Man is just pull it out and replace it with an alternate hand. Just slide that in there and you're good to go. Same goes with Spinneret. Just pull it out and replace it with the hand you want. Now the both of them have their sweeping hands. And for their final accessory, each figure comes with their unmasked heads. Now the faces have this photoreal technology, and to install it, just in a typical Marvel Legends fashion, just pull it out and replace it with the alternate head. And there you have Spider-Man with his unmasked Peter Parker head. Moving on to Mary Jane, first I want to do this comparison. This one came from the retro Gwen Stacy. As you can see, the older one is a bit wider and the new one is a lot slimmer. And of course, the new one has this photoreal tech. And I noticed that the previous one is a lot darker than the new one. And what you want to do with Spinneret in a typical Marvel Legends fashion, just pull it out and replace it with the alternate head. And here we have Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson Parker. Now moving on to the articulation, his head is on a double ball joint. As you can see right here, can do a 360. He can look up that far, but there will be a gap. And he can look down that far, and unfortunately another gap right here at the back, so you really have to be patient with it. His arms can do a 360 as well as bend that far out. He has a bicep swivel as well as a double jointed elbow. It's a little stiff right now since it's out from the packaging just a couple of minutes ago, and let me just put it, and that's as far as he can go. Let's just straighten it right here, and he has a bicep swivel as well as a bend. Now moving on to the torso, he has a butterfly joint. He can do a 360 right here, but I think it's a double ball joint as well. He can crunch that far in and arc that far out. As you can see, now let's just put it back and fix him right here. His feet can kick that far out and his legs can barely move back. That's because of the sculpt of his butt. He also has this drop down legs system right here. As you can see, this is actually just the retro body repurposed and upgraded in order to have that pinless joint system. And he does have a upper thigh swivel, double jointed knees right there. He has a boot swivel, as you can see right here. He has up and down at the feet as well as a pivot. And something we have never seen with Marvel Legends in their 6-inch scale is a toe bend for regular figures. This dates back to the Toy Biz roots of Marvel. Now moving on to Spinneret's articulation, she does have the Shriek body mold. Her head can do a 360. She can look up that far and look down that far, which is a fair amount of articulation when it comes to the head. A part being that she does not have a hairpiece, which hinders articulation. She can do a 360 with her shoulder. Her shoulder can go that far up. She has a bicep swivel as well as a double jointed elbow system right there. And wait, just let me, and right there, that's as far as it can go. And let me just fix it right here. She has a wrist swivel as well as a bend. Her upper torso has a decent amount of range in terms of articulation. She can kick that far up and she can move her feet barely that far out. she can do the splits decently with no problem whatsoever. Let me just straighten her up right here, and let me just fix it. She has a upper thigh swivel as well as double jointed knees right there. She has an up and down at the legs right there, as well as a pivot, and thankfully her costume doesn't restrict articulation since these are separate pieces. For size, let me just take my ruler right here. Spider-Man stands just a little below 6.5 inches, and moving on to Spinneret, she stands a little just above 6 inches. And I think it's a very decent scale between the married couple. So, to summarize my general thoughts with these two figures, I think they are very fun, and I had a blast playing, reviewing, and posing these two figures around. With the Renew Your Vows Spider-Man, it was a subject of debate when the retro Spider-Man came out because some people still preferred the Pizza Spider-Man as their definitive Spider-Man, while other people thought that the retro was now the superior representation of the iconic character. I think the Renew Your Vows Spider-Man is the best of both worlds, especially with the pinless joint system. It doesn't get as close as to classic Spider-Man as this. For Spinneret, she is really accurate to her comic book appearance. The only thing that would make her better if she also had an ab crunch like Spider-Man. So apart from the upper torso articulation, she'd also have the lower torso articulation. Even without it, she has a decent amount of range as a spider character. With the release of this set, I am anticipating the release of Mayday Parker. I would like to complete the Renew Your Vows Parker family, regardless if we get the kid version or the adult version of Mayday. So, that's about it. Till next time, see ya!